Oh, hello. Assalamu alaikum. You just caught me making my dua then. How are you? How is your Ramadan going? Day 15. And are you loving it? Are you hitting the wall? I want to hear from you today, inshallah ta'ala. Welcome back to Ramadan Reset with me, Sister Lauren Booth, where you get to meet some amazing friends and colleagues from around the world who I've had the honor of working with and meeting and sometimes working with. And we're going to be sharing ideas all this month, mashallah, for watan.org.uk, a specialist charity who help Syrian refugees in their time of need, and that has been a long time of need. Idlib, of course, right now, 500,000 people in the last few months forced from their homes and from their places of safety into refugee status, and they need our help, brothers and sisters. So do take a moment to send £60 for a food basket and some water, inshallah. And if you can't afford that, then do go to my Just Giving page and give what you can, inshallah ta'ala. And at the end, we'll gather it all up and it will go again to Syrian refugees. So my guest today is a special friend of the family. His name is Julien Drolon. He is a journalist and a film director and a broadcaster and a fellow convert to Islam. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Julien.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Lauren. Thank you for inviting me one more time on your show. And this important endeavor you're taking to help the Syrian brothers and sisters. And inshallah, we're going to bring some good content today for our community.
Inshallah. You're also in Istanbul. Well, you're not in Istanbul, you're in Turkey. Where are you right now? What's it like?
Only the family can know. No, I'm outside of Istanbul, nearby the ocean. And we're trying to cope with the situation as much as we can. And I'm doing some interviews in French on a YouTube channel. So we try to keep ourselves busy in this month of Ramadan.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah, may Allah bless you. And of course, you've got young children. How many children have you got and what their ages?
3.
3 now, I can't believe it.
Yeah,
and they're all under 5, right?
6 months, 2 and 4.
2 and 4. And salams to your amazing wife. She's a former opera singer who converted to Islam, mashallah, tabarakallah. And what an inspiring sister Zara is, mashallah. So salams to her. You know what we want to talk about today, Julien, is inshallah, this concept of what life's going to be post lockdown in different cities and different places in the world. Assalamu alaikum, Asha from Malaysia has just joined us. How is it going to look? Perhaps we can go back in your story about freedom, when you came to Islam, what that change was before we go into our next change.
Well, of course, freedom is truth liberates you. So truth is freedom. So once I became Muslim, everything were more clear, because once you know your purpose in life, you're definitely more free. So that was the beginning of the journey, and I wanted to share that freedom, that truth to everybody around me. And I started in the Philippines. I did a documentary about sisters wearing hijab. I interviewed many sisters around Asia, because that was the problem back in the days in France. I think it's still the problem, although now people are wearing a niqab everywhere. You see how ridiculous it is, like we have been trying to ban niqab, and now everybody has to wear a sort of niqab. It's kind of ironic, but so yeah, I've been passionate about this, this Dawah mission, and I saw a few friends of mine becoming Muslim and changing their life from very dark places to great places. So it's been a passion of mine, and I wish I would have witnessed more Shahada in my life, because that's truly my bread and water. So we did that film Freedom to remind ourselves first, and all the convert community, that we have a lot of work to do to bring this message of truth to the world, to truly liberate themselves. Because with what's going on out there, there's so many controversies with this Corona and things, and there's only one thing we know for sure, is the truth is in the Quran. And it's very important to focus ourselves on the truth, because we don't know anymore what's true or what's false, and therefore I think the true freedom is in the ultimate truth, which is Islam.
What was the challenge, Julian, for you as a French journalist in even considering faith? Were you Christian before?
Well, the challenge at the time is I was a singer-songwriter, so I had a
Wow.
band, and I was in the Philippines. All my fans were Christians, so it took me 1 year to make a public announcement, and I lost, I think, maybe 2,000 likes quite quickly on my Facebook page. But yeah, it was the biggest challenge because I was still playing music. I was still doing some concerts. So I had many type of life. I've been a salesman, businessman, songwriter, journalist. But at the time, I used music to connect to God, and God directing me to Islam. And the biggest challenge was to announce it to my family. Of course, my mom being super feminist, she said to me that was the worst thing I could have told her. So, but then after she kind of like got into the groove, and now she's okay, and she also believed in God. But in France, they just hate the idea of hijab and things like this. So it was difficult, but I have to say I've been spared. I mean, I hear stories of brothers and sisters in India or other countries, and I think they suffer much more than we do. We got some issues in Europe, but I think the oppression in other countries are really much higher. And converting, like I remember when we interviewed some brothers from Laos, for example, they were scared to reveal their identity. So we're still fortunate in Europe that we still have a relative freedom,
Relative, definitely. What I'm wondering though is, when you say your fans were Christian, were you singing Christian music? Were you making Christian music?
No, Christian. I mean, Filipinos, as you know, maybe is arguably the biggest Christian nation in the world. Like they literally go to the church every day. Even in the malls, they have ceremonies every day. So they don't really care about Islam. But of course, when I announced I was a Muslim, they were a bit like taken by surprise. But I was not singing Christian songs. I was a reggae, funk musician. A lot of my inspiration were from Bob Marley and Jason Mraz, and I was singing songs. I was already singing spiritual songs, So then when I became Muslim, I tried to do 1 year of nasheed, and I partnered with celebrities in Malaysia, and some of my songs hit more than 100,000 views. But it was not such a big deal, I still got the fans, and I tried to do dawah to them, and that's it, But Filipinos are great people. They don't really hate Islam. They don't have a problem. Actually, Filipino were Muslim before, before the Spanish come, and like such as Indonesian, Malaysian. Something people don't know.
Filipino. I didn't know this. I had no idea.
Philippines was like Indonesia and Malaysia, literally. Like they had sultans in all over this part of the world, and the Spanish came, and they forced Christianity on them. They killed many Filipinos in Manila, and the children stayed alive, and they gave them Spanish name. That's the history.
They gave them Spanish names. So the orphans, they gave Spanish names to erase the history.
Yeah, literally. And only in the south of Philippines, in Mindanao, they try to fight back and preserve Islam. And this is where you still have ongoing issues in Mindanao because they want to keep Islam, integrity. And but it's very sad because Filipinos really love Islam. They really love God. So it made me feel sad. That's why I decided to leave to Malaysia, because I could not bear anymore this lie. Like Jesus being the Son of God, and this paganism all over Philippines really started to affect me. So I decided to move to Malaysia and to discover another type of paganism, actually.
Well, let's talk about that. Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, Malaysia is multicultural, and there is also Hindus and all sort of belief, which is fine. But when you become comfortable with shirk, that becomes an issue for your iman and for your tawhid, So it's okay to live together, but you don't have to celebrate, Christmas, or let's say you don't have necessity to celebrate everything that the pagan people do, because that's not part of our tradition, So you have to have good knowledge of Islam to try to find the balance between living among different culture and religion and staying firm with your deen without compromising. So
don't you think that as converts, Western converts have a have big issues with belonging anywhere. Do we fall a little bit into judging other Muslim cultures harder than we judge the non-Muslim cultures that we came from in a way?
I think, you know, we are sitting between two chairs. You know, like we see the defects in our own culture, of course, refusing to accept Islam and our families and friends. So we don't feel comfortable with that. But at the same time, because we embrace Islam in its purest form, we want the best, right? We study, we want, you know, and then when we see the Muslim world out there with a lot of mix between the true Islam and the culture, that, you know, we don't accept that culture because it as long as it's okay with Islam, it's fine. But when you have a culture that goes against Islam and you as a new Muslim, you don't want to practice it, right? Because it doesn't make sense. You just left a culture that was 100% against Islam. Then you want Islam in its purity. So this is why for us it's very difficult, because we can't necessarily find our place in many Muslim countries, because there's so much innovation and there's so much strong culture that is actually shadowing Islam. And at the same time, in our Occidental life, we are also finding a difficult time to find a space, because it's so godless. You know, like, yeah, I left France when I was 18 years old because I could not bear it anymore. Like, when you have no spirituality at all.
How does that feel? A lot of people, salam alaikum to everybody. I'll say some hellos in a second, because we really like to, I like to speak to everybody, and it's very interactive. So, but describe that feeling of being in a godless secular society, because obviously a lot of people on this line won't know that.
A very interesting concept I want to share to everybody. You know, this concept about teenager crisis, and I talk about that. There's no such a thing as teenager crisis. You know, the crisis you start to feel when you start to get 13, 14, because now you're an adult actually, and you're responsible towards Allah with your soul, which means you are a child in Islam or you are an adult. And maybe it's something new for you, but I really want to break it down, because this is where the problem starts. Okay, in the Western world, we focus on, oh, you have now hormones coming up, that's why you don't feel good in your body, that's why you start to freak out and you have a teenager crisis. No. The teenager crisis is actually a soul crisis. Why? Because at that moment, you are accountable to Allah, which means if you die, you're not a child anymore. You know, you have the capacity mentally to distinguish the true from the false and to recognize the God. So the reason why the teenagers, and you don't have to agree with me actually, Lauren, on that, but it's just this is my finding. And it's a breakthrough finding, that actually teenagers start to freak out, and it was my case. I entered into depression because I didn't know the purpose of my life. I didn't know, but your soul knows, because your soul has the knowledge of God. That it's time for you to accept the truth, to find the truth. That's why it started at the teenager time, when you're in the capacity to procreate, because at that time you're going to be accountable to Allah. That's why the Sahaba, some Sahaba at the age of 12, 13 years old, they were leading armies. It's hard to believe, but it's a fact. You know, it's a documented fact. So at 12, 13 years old, back in the days, in the time of Rasulullah, you at 12, 13 years, you can lead an army with people behind you like Khalid bin Walid and Omar bin Khattab. You know, so at 12, 13 years old, your body was strong already, and you are accountable, which means if you die at that moment, you're not a kid anymore. You know, so this is what the problem we have is, that we have not identified that, and the West used physical body excuses to say, oh, it's a teenager crisis, but actually people have a teenager crisis until the rest of their life.
That's right. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
So it doesn't make sense. Like I've been doing party with people. Like I remember when I was a non-Muslim in Barcelona and I was in my 20s, I was doing party with guys, they were 40 already. And I was starting to tell them, guys, don't you think it's not the time to kind of settle? They didn't want to leave that phase in their life, because why? They need to be in denial constantly. They need to, because they need to drink alcohol or find other ways to not think about the true reality, which is, if you don't come back to God at some point in your life, you're going to be doomed, you know? So this is why, coming back to your question, I felt that and I couldn't find the answer. So my mother gave me a lot of books about Buddhism, which start to appease myself, because at least I was doing meditation, like the Prophet. you know, and I was able to calm myself and center myself a bit, but still this aspect of God was missing. So I traveled the world, and thanks to Allah, at 30 years old, after 10 years of intense research, I found the truth in Islam, and since then, of course, I never left it, and I grew from that, and this is what we need to expand to the people. Islam as a solution to everything, including the teenager crisis, because we need to identify the real problem. And I was about to commit suicide, you know. I was suicidal at 16 years old. It's hard to believe, but because I couldn't see any exits. I could not see. We have this very harsh high school exam that is like on your neck. I don't know in UK, but you know, if
grim.
It gives the feeling if you fail at this exam, you will never be able to become an adult and be free. And I was really depressed, and I know many so-called teenager Muslims who don't have any crisis, because they know when they have been praying since 7 years old. When they turn 13, 14, of course they have hormonal issue, but their soul, their mind is clear. It's like, yeah, we have a God. It makes sense. We pray to God, and they don't necessarily go through a phase where they go crazy like in the West, where at 14 years old you need to drink alcohol and cigarettes just to fit with everybody. So if already we could identify that in the Muslim world, that there's no such a thing as teenager crisis, which means if you're a Muslim parent and your child is freaking out at 14 years old, you have to ask yourself, how do you portray Islam to him? Does he really understand Islam? Is he really understanding, or who is his creator?
Who's his purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? You know, we're going to come back to that because I really like speaking about those teenage years, and it's something that I've been talking about for a while. But we've got some really nice questions coming through for you. So I'm gonna go backwards a little bit to Brother Asif. He says, a question for Julien. Salam alaikum for Brother Julien. How do you resist the temptation you're exposed to in your earlier life? Temptations, plural.
As a Muslim or as a non-Muslim? Because as a non-Muslim, there was no resistance, really. I mean, you know, you just like without any Sharia, without any boundaries. So,
I mean, I guess what people don't know, if they've been born Muslim, is what is the feeling of giving in to all those temptations. If you've continuously tried or said no, you don't know how far you can go. So people then feel regret, like I'm not free, I'm in this parameter. But you've had freedom. Where did that take you? Where does that take someone?
Well, before, as a non-Muslim, I mean, of course, our fitra knows the truth and the right, you know, like that's I think for everybody. But when you start to destroy that fitra for many reasons, through alcohol and other things, you lose senses of what is right or wrong. And so, of course, like as a non-Muslim, I try to be good person on what I thought was good, right? But in our society in Europe, drinking alcohol and being with different women and all these things is not seen as something bad, right? But how do I resist as a Muslim to the temptation? Because this is what we need to. So it's very simple. It's try to surround yourself with good people, and try to do as much good deeds as you can. Pray on time. I mean, there's a lot of ways to protect you in Islam. Doing zikr and it's all about the environment. I would say the key thing to resist the temptation, and even when I was talking with Christians before becoming Muslim, I spent 3 months with Protestant Christians, and you know, they were married men, and they were traveling for business, and they were always talking about the temptation of other women, and they were calling each other to protect each other. You know, as Christian, practicing Christian, they of course forbid fornication and zina and cheating. So even the Christian who are trying to practice, they know that surrounding yourself with good brothers who will have your back, who will say, hey, stop talking to this woman, you know, she's not your wife, and things like that. You need that also as a Muslim. You need that to have people around you who are more pious than you in certain ways, that will remind you, and you will feel ashamed to say something. I remember when I became Muslim, you know, a big problem we have in the West is backbiting. Something like it's a big culture in France. I mean, it's everywhere. Like you backbite your own parents, you backbite everybody. Disgusting. And we know it's a massive sin in Islam. And I remember in the Philippines, I was I met some Filipino Muslim, and one day it just happened. I got caught up in backbiting someone, and they stayed silent. And I was like, usually when you backbite someone, someone roll with you and keep doing, you know.
Yeah.
They stayed silent, and I was like, whoa, that this, and they made me understand. No, that's not something we do as Muslim, you know. So this is the thing that if you find people like this, don't I mean, don't stay away from them, because they are really good people, and they will help you to get stronger, because they will eradicate those sins, and they will help you to resist the temptation. So to come back to the question of the brother, surround yourself with people that are better than you in ways that you think you need to improve. Like the mistake that a lot of youth are doing, they like to surround themselves with losers, so they think they are good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I'm the most pious of everybody. Me at least I'm praying 5 times a day. My friends do not, you know, so I'm better. No, that's not the point. You must put yourself in a situation where you are with really great people, and wherever you go with them, they will always put you back on track.
I mean, again, another topic that we should go into another time, you know, that because I just want to say quickly that maybe people can't understand how what was addictive before you say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna muhammadin abduhu wa rasuluhu, and it stops. It's like I want it. Oh, I don't want it. So that's another that we can go into that topic another time, inshallah. Salam alaikum, says Okaba Salama. May Allah protect you and maintain you as his beloved ones. To our brother, how is was your interaction with Muslim communities in France, and particularly the North Africans?
Before?
I mean now, I guess. What is your contact to it? You know.
Okay, so I made a hijrah. I made a Hajj in 2013, and I was in the room. I traveled with hundreds of French Muslims, mainly from Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, and Senegal. And they were very happy with me, very nice with me, very friendly. I was in the room with Algerian Moroccans, and they were very proud that I became Muslim. I felt they were a bit scared. Like me, I was brand new Muslim, talking about dawah every time, and they were like, you know, as long as you take care of the family, it's okay, you know. So for me, they were playing safe, and I think I understand why, you know. Like France is a very special country when it comes to Islam, you know. But I think they're amazing people. They are very trying to be self-sufficient. They raise money quite quickly for some masjid in France. The thing is, I think they need people who fresh blood like me to you know, inspire them. Like now I'm doing if you are interested, sister, I'm on a YouTube channel called Honoré Islam, and every day I'm doing 10 minutes talk about different topics, and to my great surprise, you know, some people are telling me, like, what you say is like honey to me, you know. It's like it's a new way of seeing Islam. And as I always said, Sister Lauren, like the converts, we are the new blood of the Ummah. So even you and me, we need 1-year-old converts to come in our life, you know, to remind us things, because they bring something new on the table. So I think it's very important for the Muslim Ummah. It's not because Lauren and me, we are Muslim converts, that we are saying that. It's because it just makes sense that the converts must flow in the Ummah, like the blood in the body. Okay, and this is very important. So I think I've been beneficial to them. Of course, they had more knowledge than me. So the good thing about the born Muslim, you have more knowledge. For example, my wife, she knows how to read the Quran very well with proper tajweed. Me, I'm still using transliteration, you know, for example.
No, inshallah, that's going to hold you back. That's what's holding you back, the transliteration.
That's bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I started to learn, but I have to say, like, it takes me
you
too
can do
much.
it, inshallah.
Yeah.
You can do it, inshallah. You can do it.
So,
It you know, it's really tough going back to your ABCs as an adult. There's no doubt about it. But this is completely different. I had a bit of a cry yesterday with my husband. I was like, I can't. I've been doing this 10 years and I'm still on Alif Ba Ta, but I can make the sounds and do a little bit of reading, alhamdulillah. But I can read the Quran. I can read it, not yet with meaning, but the words, Julian, when you get there, the words start jumping out at you like, oh, Hasanat, oh, I know that. Oh, Malika, Malika, oh, I know that. And all of those shapes suddenly start to make a little bit of sense. It's really exciting. So, but what will definitely, sorry for having a rant, everybody, this is a bit of a passion. Yeah, is the transliteration, the Roman letters will kill it.
I know. I started to learn it, but I'll say I'm halfway. But I'm a man. My thing is I'm a man of action. I'm a Khalid bin Walid style. You know, like I love reading the Quran. I love reading the English tafsir, and I ponder on the Quran. But all this, I know alphabet of Arabic is critical for us. But I'm just really busy on the battlefield, doing dawah, making movies, doing business, and I guess it's not for everybody, but I can truly tell you that I love pondering on the Quran, and I think it's something that is really missing among many of my brothers. I realize is like, yeah, they recite the Quran from A to Z. For example, there's some Hafiz of the Quran that I know, and when they call me to ask me what do you think is going on in the world right now with the Quran, I told them my take on the whole thing, and I open up their mind like this, you know. So I think guidance can come also if you can also be really good if you do it in your own language, but you ponder on the meaning of the Quran based on the current situation, because the Quran is supposed to help us right now, Sister Rowan. You know, like right now, how do you handle this crisis? All the answers are in the Quran. So this is how I approach the Quran. I tackle it in that way because I have, like everybody has, a lot of issues right now, and reading is a great barakah, but I believe understanding is even more important.
Well, I don't think that you or I are really equipped to kind of give a précis of which is superior to the other. Okay, we'll avoid that. But definitely every single, you know, Allah Ta'ala tells us that every single syllable, every letter has barakah 10 times the sound that you're making. So there is definitely, you know, the barakah of making those sounds, of working your way through the Quran in its original language is there. What we need as an ummah is an understanding of what we should do with those sounds and what it means for us as behavior. I think the adab. I love the passion of new converts. What Mariam Azimi here, she's saying, I self-taught myself. The best way is to listen to recitation talim, then repeat afterwards. Now, as you're right, I believe. As you're a musical person, I come from a musical background because we're Westerners, right? If you pick up a reciter who's really melodious, you'll find that you learn really quickly. So you may not be able to read at this point, but you'll be able to recite.
I mean, I learned Surah before I married my wife. She asked me to memorize Surah Al-Insan, and that was the condition to marry her. And I was like 2 years Muslim, and so I listened to a couple of top reciter, and I pick up one. And with the transliteration and with his tajweed, I was able to do something pretty decent, you know. So that's still possible, you know. But I agree with you. I mean, the benefit of reciting the Quran, especially in Ramadan, is a source of shifa, of barakah, and I'm gonna make a better job at this for my last 15 days.
MashaAllah, we all will, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. There's no judgment in this. This is a circle of safety and love and respect, and we won't judge anyone. And of course, you've got sons, so they're going to be. You know what I love to watch? Everybody, the little sheikhs, the little boys, Allahu Akbar, and then leading the prayer. There's one going around now, and honestly, he's about 3 years old, and he's got his little posse in the background, and they're all following him, Allahu Akbar, and he's the imam. I mean, that is the cutest thing, because that level of purity and that level of passion, it's like the kids can feel the words. I really love that, mashallah.
That's amazing.
Let me ask you, which is then the ayat or the surah which has right now is speaking to you about the world and about your worldview?
For me, I'm not Surah 110. It's my favorite surah. It's the last surah of the victory of Islam, because this is what I want. This is how I want to die. I want to see Islam benefiting everybody, therefore being the dominant religion. as it has been told by us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ultimately, Islam will be. So for me, in that time, this was my surah. This is the last surah that was revealed, and this is the one that some it's Ahad, I mean, Ikhlas. This is a beautiful surah, of course, but for me, An-Nasr is the best. The one that when he conquered Makkah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell him, you have to make tawbah, and he said, when you will see people accepting Islam in masses. And this is the message of the surah, which means like ultimately this is what we're going to experience with the return of Isa alayhi salam, the return of Jesus, and this is what give me hope, because we're going through a hard time. I mean, let's make no mistake, the Muslim Ummah was worth 8% GDP of the entire world before this crisis. Now, how much we're going to be worth? Maybe 4%. Is 4% GDP acceptable for 20% of the population? And so we're going through a very difficult time. Like the outcome of this crisis is unknown to some people like me. I can see where the wind is going, and it's not going towards freedom. So the only thing that gives me hope is what Allah promised us is ultimately a lot of people will accept Islam. A lot of Christians will recognize Jesus being a prophet and not being the Son of God. So me, this is what gives me hope. I don't know for you, Lauren, but
I think
what
yeah, it's a good question. What gives us hope? Every day Allah makes the sun rise, and every breath we take, and every person we love. I mean, what stuns me is Allah Ta'ala didn't make us have to have love for one another. We could just have rattled along and tried to earn. He could have made us the materialist society. You first pass the post and you win. Okay, first pass the post and you get to Jannah, right? Allah can do anything, but that is not His way. His way is to create something where everything does better when they're kind, right? So plants cooperate together. Did you know that? So the acidity and the alkaline of plants, they like to live together to help each other. Allahu Akbar. The shade of one tree helps another, a certain sort of grass grow. And bugs, sometimes they carry each other. I mean, it's insane, the cooperation that is going on, even on a molecular level in this world that we live in. And it will come back to that. And if we've made ourselves as humanity a virus, then we will be retracted and Allah will bring beauty. So we have to trust that we're on the side of the angels, as they say, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, right? By being Muslim.
But since you're talking about the virus, I mean, this is something I just made my video recently about the virus of shirk, and there's a lot of panic around the world because it's a virus that is affecting our dunya, right? We cannot move, and the virus of shirk has been going on for centuries, and it has literally destroyed countries, civilization, and it's as we know, the biggest sin in Islam. And what saddens me is that we as a Muslim Ummah, we didn't get a sense of urgency towards the non-Muslim communities who are in deep need of Islam right now. Like I'm listening to Christians now who are really good people, and they are just hoping for Jesus to come and save us with this crisis. And it makes me feel sad because we both know that it's not going to be the case. Jesus cannot help them in this crisis, So my take on that is that I try to remind the Muslims, yes, we need, I think I discussed that last time with you, but for me, it's very important to not lose the main objective of Islam, and it's to spread this religion, to let the people know the good news, and at the same time warn them about what can happen, because I think we are missing the plot. I was happy to see that there's 20-30 scholars who recently made a letter to the humanity. There's a website, Abdullah Green is on it. I don't know if you heard about it. It's Global Message to Humanity, and it's really nice. I think Zakir Naik is on it. I mean, all of them. Yasser Qadi, all of them. Yeah. Right. And check it. Abdullah Green talk about it, and I'm sure you will love it. And I didn't go through it's a letter addressed to mankind during Ramadan, telling the people now it's time to come back to God. you know.
Mashallah.
And it was signed by 30 prominent scholars around the world.
Wow.
And I think this is really a great initiative,
Yeah.
because the people needs to know, the only thing that can,
Mhm.
we're going through a lot of hardship for what? If it's not to return to God, to really appreciate who He is, all His beautiful names, all His creations. And this is the moment of truth is now, So the evil part will do his job, and we know. But what about the people of good? Like, what is their contribution? Like right now, what you're doing, mashallah, helping Syrian. This is one initiative among others, which is very noble. And we have to step up our game. We need to understand things not going to be the same, but the people of good, we have to do even more than we used to do before.
And be solution based. What I like about Watan, the charity, by the way, who's sponsoring this output every day in Ramadan, they've promised good content to people, good Islamic content, good discussions, but they want us, inshallah ta'ala, to do our bit to support the people who are coming to them day in, day out in the refugee camps on the borders of Turkey, inside Syria, and saying, we're asking Allah, please answer our du'as, Ya Allah, and we can actually be a part of that. So brothers and sisters, we're gathered here, Julien is here, everybody who's given their time, the wonderful organizers at Watan, those who work in the refugee camps, they're waiting for us to do our part. At the end of the day, Allah Ta'ala says, who will give me a goodly loan? He doesn't need anything, but He's put this in a language we can understand, right? You give something and then He gives you more back, subhanAllah. And this is what we're talking about, Julie and I, about being hopeful, because the system that Allah Ta'ala has created is one of hope and sharing. So I've got a Just Giving a fundraising page, and all the money this Ramadan that I'm raising is going towards food baskets for Syrian refugees and water. I live in Istanbul, and we use bottled water. I'm not so sure about what comes out of the tap. Do you use bottled water where you are? Or are you drinking from the tap, Julien?
I'm buying bottle in the market, but you're using tap water? Yeah.
No, bottled water, and I hate to use it because of the plastic. But if you can imagine, you don't have those bottles of water, right? We're about to go. I think we're having a lockdown this weekend in Istanbul and major cities. If you run out of water, it's like, wow, And if you run out of water in a refugee camp where the tap is, 2 kilometers away, and it's dangerous to walk there, and actually the water's coming out brown, then you really understand what it is to send people water. And these people, subhanAllah, they've been through so much. And what you said, Julien, is really significant, that right now in this age, there are more refugees in the world than after the Second World War, right? Mm-hmm. More than 10 million. It might even be more than 20 million. I can't remember. The figure was so huge that I keep revisiting it and going, nah, I can't believe it. And the majority are Muslims. Allahu Akbar. So the global movement of people being forced from their homes, these are our people. These are the arm is aching. The arm of the ummah is in pain. So please go to Watan, make your donation for the sake of Allah. You don't have to tell anybody about it. You don't have to tell me about it. Keep it to yourself. Ask Allah to increase what you've given, inshallah, and know that the reward is with Him. We've got a few minutes left, Julien. Do you want to wrap up some of your ideas on freedom and bi-idhnillah ta'ala?
Inshallah. So we're talking about that before the show. The freedom that I see in the future for the Muslim community is to be as much as possible self-sufficient in terms of water, in terms of food. And I really strongly advise brothers and sisters around the world to look at opportunities to live in a more simple way in the countryside. I believe the future of this ummah is more towards the countryside, where people can be having access to fresh water, having access to food. And I know a lot of us have been used to the benefit of being in a city and having everything around us, but truly I appreciated my life when I was 7 years old. Between 14 and 7 years old, I spent 7 years in the farm, and that was the best time of my life. It connected me to the fitrah, connected me to God. And I think in this crisis, all the people who live in the countryside right now, their life have not really changed. Like, I know some of my friends, they are living in a farm you know, they don't even get out, and they have access to a river every morning. They see the sunrise, sunset at night. And I think we lost that. You know, I was surprised to find out in Turkey, almost 80% of the people live in cities. 80% of the people, it's massive. It's 80% of the people in Turkey live in cities, you know. So when you know how big is Turkey, you know, and I think this is a real problem, you know, like we really have to see how we can look at our life in a different way, live more simple. And I think the joy and the connection with Allah will be even stronger. So I truly, this basically give you freedom, because if you depend on trucks to feed you, bring you the food, it tells you how much limited freedom you have to even feed yourself, and you're heavily depending on the whole economy, which we know right now is not that stable. So the best advice I want to give to my Muslim brothers and sisters, and there's a huge movement in France that is happening for the past few years. It's called the Colibri movement, where thousands of people have left Paris to reestablish themselves and establishing farm, living together, Muslim with non-Muslims. And this is a movement that is happening in France. I don't know in UK, but I truly encourage it, because we see the people are much more happy. And this type of lockdown, and now there's a possibility of a second wave, and who knows, God knows what will happen next. I really want the Muslim brothers and sisters to rethink the lifestyle, to rethink. Now that everybody's working anywhere from online, could you not do that in the comfort of your nice farm that you share with 5 other brothers and sisters, giving education to your children in a organic way, you know? So I think it's a time to ponder on how we used to live, and how can we live better in the future, you know, without depending on this system.
Mashallah. You know, I was in America about 8 years ago, and I was in one of the southern states, and there was an Amish girl there, and I was absolutely fascinated. She was about 15 years old. She was literally standing in front of a cart, and she was selling flowers and different. And she had, I'm telling you, she had Noor on her face, such innocence and such. And I said, "Peace be to you." And she said, "And peace be to you." And I was like, whoa. And I said, how is it? How is your life? She said, "Oh, thanks God, it's beautiful." And I'm like, wow, this is what the Muslims need to be doing. We need to be connecting with Allah Ta'ala through nature, through sustainability. Honestly, she made me cry that day. There was a purity and an innocence. May Allah guide them, you know. But what they're doing, the way that they work together, the way that they collaborate, the way that they keep their community close, I think there's some good there. Allah knows best.
Yeah, and you know, we become, just to finish, the city has made us harsher, and it's not a coincidence. Like when you put 15 million people together in a small density, and everybody is busting, hustling, it's very hard to keep your humanity. Even if you're a Muslim, you're not playing safe. You know, you're not playing at home. You know, all the prophets were deeply involved in nature. All the revelations. Imagine Rasulullah got revelation in a cave. All the prophets, most of them were shepherds. You know, it tells you something. I mean, the best way to earn a living is through trade or agriculture as a Muslim. Those are the 2 most halal way to earn a living, right? So I really want to start to engage the conversation every time I can, because I know this is a solution for this ummah in the near future, to keep our iman strong, to keep our children healthy. We need to give them a better life, you know.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. We're going to wrap up now, because we've got 2 minutes until we break our fast. Julien, I like to ask our guests to make a dua. Could you make a dua for us before we break our fast, inshallah, and everybody say Ameen bi'idhnillah ta'ala.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Oh Allah, we ask you to bless us in this month of Ramadan. Give us a strong and with the possibility to understand your Quran, recite your Quran the way it is pleased to you. Help us to feed as many people as possible. Help us to be resourceful people for the whole Ummah. Give us guidance, guide our families. Make us better Muslim after this Ramadan. Keep us away from the shaitan as long as possible and forever. And strengthen the Ummah. Bring more people to this beautiful deen. We want everybody to have the possibility to have access to it. Bless our brothers and sisters around the world, protect them against all evil, and make this ummah stronger, and give us victory. Ameen.
Ameen, ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakumullah khair, Brother Julien Drolon. And I've just posted on my Facebook page, everybody out there, the Freedom, the movie. One last question. Brother Julien, could you please give us the name of your YouTube channel?
Halis Media.
Halis Media.
Halis Media. And you can watch the 4 parts, and inshallah, you're going to enjoy it.
I mean, we're about to break our fast, so I say thanks very much, everybody, for your engagement. Brother Julien, may Allah Ta'ala bless you and see you soon, inshallah, in greater occasions and in a good way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.